Hello, good evening. Welcome to the second of our testimony times. So I hope you've been able to enjoy some of the sunshine today. It's been a lovely day outside. So this evening, we're going to have an interview between Diane and Jane. So that's something to look forward to. We've got another song from Kathy Burton coming up in the middle of the interview, and it's a song called Build My Life. So she's going to join us in the interval, or as part of an interval, I guess, in the testimony. Hopefully you've been, those of you who want to, come and got the packs, the VE Day packs that Anushka's so wonderfully created around by the back door of the church, by the car park, in a plastic tub there. So please do go and get that. And if you've been on one of your daily exercise walks, you may have seen we have a new resident at the church, the unknown Tommy. So worth going along Kildridge Lane to have a look at him. He'll be there for a while. So there's lots of stuff going on. We started a new online alpha course last night, and if you're interested in finding out more about that, you can email alpha@chasemethodist.org, and we'll come back to you with some details about how you can join in that. It's all social distancing, all over Zoom, so and that's all right. So I think that's probably enough waffle from me for now. So let's go over to Diane and Jane for the interview.
Well, hello, my name's Diane, and I'm just going to have a chat here, an interview with Jane Fielding, who's one of our church members. Hi, Jane.
Hello.
It's lovely. It's very surreal being here in our separate homes, having a chat.
It is.
Perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself and just say a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm Jane, obviously. I live in Sherrill Heath now. I lived in Waltham Chase for 7 years, moved to Sherrill Heath. I'm not telling you how old I am. 21? Can I say 21?
Yeah.
People will believe that totally. So I was brought up mainly in Winchester. My parents are not particularly religious, not unreligious, as it were. Can you say that?
Yes.
Not particularly religious. They didn't have me christened or my brothers christened. They were very much of a mind that it was something that we could make a decision on as and when we wanted to, when we were, of a mind to make that choice. So it never really came up. It never really was an issue. I think my 16th birthday, my parents gave me a little cross, which I started wearing. No real impact on my life. It was just there. But it wasn't really until maybe, how old, Sebby? 9. So about 11 years ago, probably things started to change a little bit.
Okay. So how can you explain a little bit about how we got to meet each other?
It was a really, really surreal time, and I don't remember a lot of it. It was very quite a traumatic time. I was in a situation where I had a long-term relationship. My marriage was breaking down. We were having to move fairly swiftly, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to manage it. I felt completely alone. My father had a stroke. My mother was full-time looking after him back in Winchester, so couldn't turn to my parents for help as such. And I remember going to bed one night, and I woke up the next morning, and I thought that what I really need is an army to help me sort the house out, to help me get it in place, to help me get it painted and ready for viewers, to get it sold as quickly as possible. And I knew a lovely lady on the school run called Nikki Fremantle, and I knew that she was with the church. And I remember going to her in the playground and saying, I'm in such trouble, I need an army, and this is the only way I can think of to get an army, and I know the church can mobilize an army. So I spoke to her, and over the next few weeks, I had a lot of people coming in and out. People were dropping meals off, as now the church feed people. That's what they do. So people were dropping meals, or people were coming in, were helping me paint, were helping me clear and tidy. I imagine you must have been one of those faces, were you, Diane?
I was, yeah. I got involved with helping clean in the early days. That's the only bit I remember of you.
Lovely. Yeah, you cleaning my house.
No, I know, but that's part of it, isn't it? So when do you remember when you then started coming to church after that?
Not entirely. I know that I spoke to Nikki, and I said I don't have a copy of the Bible, but I would really like to have a copy of the Bible. Is that something she can sort me out with? And I think the next day she handed me a copy of the Bible, and so it was I think it was the New Testament. No, probably both, and said, here you go. I was like, oh, okay. I still have that Bible now. It's not my main Bible, but it's quite a small one, so I can carry it around with me. And I probably came to a few. Certainly, the children started to go into Crusaders, the children's group, the youth group. Yeah. And I probably started coming to a few services, but it wasn't really until I did my first Alpha that I started being a little bit more questioning about things. I suppose questioning is probably a good thing. And it was Nikki that encouraged me to go to Alpha. I had to miss one. I can't remember why. It started in the September. Couldn't do it. Was it an evening one? It might have been an evening one. And it wasn't until we did the daytime one that I thought, actually, okay, I can come along now.
Yeah, I remember you coming along to the daytime one. That was a bit more practical, wasn't it, in the end for all of us?
And also you fed us again.
Yes, absolutely. No, we're as a church, that's what we do, isn't it? We try to feed. And then you also came to house group. You started coming to house group. Was that about the time after you'd done the Alpha that you joined us in house group? It
would have been after the Alpha, yeah. Because, I remember Ali speaking to me and saying that there's an all-ladies house group and it's during the day. Would I like to come along? And I think after the Alpha, it just kind of fell into that, as it were. You just sort of, it's a natural progression, isn't it? After the Alpha, to continue questioning and asking those questions and exploring things to go along to Alpha. And I remember, sorry, the dog is snoring. I hope you can't pick that up. I remember going along to Alpha and seeing all the lovely ladies in our Alpha group, and not Alpha, in our house group, and thinking, oh my goodness, these are all practiced Christians. You know, they all pray perfectly and they've got a hotline to God, and I'm here going, yeah, well, you know, I'm not really sure how much of this I'm taking on board, and I'm probably looking really naive here. And I know that hopefully you didn't get too frustrated with me in those early days when I was doing a lot of questioning and playing devil's advocate a lot.
You were, to be honest, from our point of view, you were a breath of fresh air. It was really lovely for us as a group that have been Christians for a long time to have somebody new come into our group and to challenge and to ask questions. And it made us look deeper, and you were great fun. We really enjoyed you challenging, and to watch you growing as when you became a Christian, to watch you grow was an amazing experience. But can you remember the occasion when you actually gave your life to Jesus and became a Christian? Because I do.
I don't remember the date. I remember what happened. I remember we were in church, and I remember it was in the middle of a song, wasn't it? Mm. I think I think Julie Tiz and with I think that they were doing the music, and I just remember going and standing next to you. You were further up on the opposite side of the aisle, weren't you? And I just remember abandoning the children where they were, and just scurrying up and just standing next to you and just taking your hand, and it just went from there, didn't it? And then Ali appeared on my other side, I think, and they were like, do you have something you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know, I think so. I'm not sure. Let's go and talk about it. Yeah. And so we went upstairs to the prayer room, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, no, it was an amazing time to be part of that with you. So obviously you come on this journey, you've done your Alpha, you've been in house group, and you've made a commitment.
Second Alpha.
Yes, that's right. You were part of that, weren't you? And you made a commitment, which is fantastic.
You in the mornings, and I'm going to be singing some worship songs with you. So join in if you can. And I just pray that God really meets with us in these times. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one that could ever save. And worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I'm worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one that could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you, yeah. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Ooh. 'Cause I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. Oh, I will build my life upon your love. That is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. casts out all fear. Your love casts out all fear. Your love casts out all fear. Let your love cast out all fear. Let your love cast out all fear.
So obviously you're on this Christian journey, and life's not always easy, is it? And you've had quite a few things to contend with. Can you explain what, at one point, we obviously prayed a lot over different things, but one not long ago we were praying particularly for your mum. Perhaps you'd like to give a bit of detail about that.
Absolutely. Well, beginning of September last year, Mum became ill. Sorry, there's a child and a dog now. Always. Hang on. Screen time. Go away. She was poorly. She had let it get to a stage where she was very poorly before she went and asked for help. And I took her to the doctor, and the doctor said if this was my mother, I would be taking her to the hospital. So I said, right, well, you know, that's good enough for me. Let's go to the hospital. And we got to the hospital, and actually things went downhill very quickly from there. Her kidneys started to fail. Her lungs filled up with water. And I remember that first or maybe the second day that she'd been admitted to hospital, I rang you and I said, I'm really, really frightened about this, because she obviously has a very serious illness. We don't know what it is. You know, she's 80 years old. And I remember saying to you, could you ask people to pray? Because I really think that we're going to need this. And Mum actually, they didn't know what it was. They said, first of all, they thought the breast cancer had come back. Turned out not to be. You know, it was 5 weeks to the point where she had a do not resuscitate order on her, because she was so very poorly, until they found out what it was. The treatment was incredibly harsh. All this time, I knew that you guys were praying. You know, I'd sit next to her at the hospital and hold her hand. And, you know, I can say, yes, I did. I spoke to God. I didn't do it out loud, you know, because I don't know, sometimes it just feels weird. But just sitting there quietly and talking to God sometimes, you don't have to say it out loud. That's the good thing. You don't have to be a practiced prayer. You know what I'm like at praying. There's half a dozen PSs and, oh, by the way, and sorry, I forgot. And, you know, God's good. He puts up with me. And Mum turned a corner. And it was genuinely a miracle, because the doctors had said twice that she wasn't going to recover, that she wasn't going to be coming out of hospital, and we should make preparations for that. So actually to have her home now, you know, in her bungalow just down the road, and have her safe, touch wood, from the pandemic, it is a miracle. And I'm incredibly appreciative to everybody who said a prayer for Mum during that time, and to God for listening.
Yeah, that was a really tough time, wasn't it? I remember, yeah, we all prayed together, and it was, you know, we were there with you in that sense of being part of that. And knowing that the doctor said that it was a miracle was something quite incredible to hear that. And we believe that, you know, as far as we're concerned, yes, it was a miracle. And as far as you say about your praying, we've always loved the way that you pray, because you pray the way that, you know, in the Bible it talks about the children coming to Jesus, you know, and that's how we should come, and we should just pray naturally. And you pray naturally, and you've always often felt that it wasn't as good as everybody else, but that's not true at all. You know, God takes us where we're at, and He.
I think it's because everybody else sounds very polished and very perfect, and I'm kind of I do ramble. You've probably noticed, and I ramble to God as well. But it doesn't mean I don't think I'm not being heard. In fact, if anything, I think He probably hears me a bit more, because actually it's like, oh no, it's her again.
I can't believe for one moment that God sits there and thinks, oh no, it's her again. I'm sure he sits there with a big smile on his face thinking, oh great, as he does with all of us. I'm sure he thinks, great, I'm glad you come to me again. Honestly, I really do. So how, you know, you have this faith. How is your faith working for you now in this really difficult time that we're finding ourselves? You know, for you, you're at home with your lovely 4 children on your own. And let's face it, it's not easy for anybody, but for a mum on her own, it must be really, really difficult. You're having to homeschool 4 children, trying to do what you can do to keep the family going. How does that work with your faith?
It's a tricky question, really. I think I've had to make adjustments, and not feel guilty about it. And I think that's the good thing. You know, my God doesn't make me feel guilty. My God is completely understanding, and he knows that if I don't pick up the Bible for a week, it's not an impact. You know, it's not a big deal. You know, we were in a routine before, and certainly with the chap I was homeschooling anyway, we were reading devotionals in the morning, and now that's got lost somewhere in the melee. I don't think it's a big deal right now. There are other things, other outlets that I'm finding for my faith. So actually, once the kids have all gone to bed at night, and it's getting later and later, and all the bedtimes are shifting. Is it just me? Can't just be me.
No, it's not.
They're going to bed later, getting up later. But it means quite often I will sit on the doorstep, so 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, sit on the doorstep in a blanket and just look at the stars. And actually that's my quiet time. And that's quite a nice time. Normally I wouldn't have time for that. The other thing obviously I'm doing is I'm reading stories for you guys, which just came about organically. I'm not really sure how that happened. It just did. So that, you know, it's given me another outlet. It's given me other things to experiment with and explore with and talk to God about. And doing the Sunday mornings, you know, being able to watch it in bed is a blessing. We should do that all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not having to get up to go to church is just fabulous. And I'm constantly reminded that actually the church is not the place. It's not the place. You know, a church can be anywhere. Yeah. And it can be, you know, in your bed whilst you're all wearing your pajamas if you want it to be. And it can be, you know, church was at our Zoom meeting the other night. Yes. You know, our house group got together, and you know, for me that was church. And that makes a lot more sense to me than having to go to a building necessarily to have faith.
Yeah, definitely. And I just remembered, we didn't talk about your baptism. I think it would be really good to share your baptism, because for me, it was the most amazing time. And actually, I know this is your testimony, but for me, it was such out of my comfort zone. It was a real blessing being part of your baptism, but there were so many elements of it that were out of my comfort zone.
Last July, it was only last July, wasn't it?
I know.
It's
like to explain what happened.
We did it quite quickly in the end, didn't we? Because we wanted David and Ali to be a part of it, and obviously they were moving on, and we'd had this lovely long hot, you know, summer, hadn't we? It was fabulous, and I desperately wanted not to do the baptism in the church. I wanted to be, you know, more organic and down at the beach. You know, what could be more natural? And then we woke up on this Sunday. What was it? Gale force ridiculous.
But didn't you say something to God about, as I recall, there was something you'd said to him about not wanting it to be very busy or something?
Oh, probably. I was like, I'm slightly embarrassed at the thought of going in, and I'm thinking all of these sunbathers are going to be watching the crowd of us churchy people, you know, doing a baptism. And so I prayed to God, and could it be a little bit more quiet? I did not anticipate sending a massive storm and clearing out the beach entirely. I mean, that was something. But do you remember my car battery was dead that morning as well?
Yes, I'd forgotten that.
Nearly didn't make it at all. Get down to the beach down at, where was it? Where did we go? What's it called?
Hillhead.
And and how high were the waves?
I couldn't believe it. I really thought in my innocence that our Reverend David Moss would cancel it foolishly. Obviously, that did not happen.
No, it didn't. I'm like, kids, stay behind the sea wall so you don't get swept out. And you and me and David, we went out, and it was so hard even to stay standing out in that sea, wasn't it? Because it was literally buffeting.
Yeah.
And I remember David saying to me, "How do you want to do this?" And me saying, "I don't care, just really quickly."
Yes, I remember that, because we were kind of holding on to each other to even stand up.
On, yeah.
We could barely hold on, could we, to each other?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think David Moss had spoken to other people after, explaining that we'd had it done, and they were amazed that we actually went through with it. There is a video that exists, apparently. There is. Oh yes, no, I have that, because I still can't believe it. Yeah, because for me, my comfort zone, I don't like this. Well, it wasn't sand, but I don't like beaches, and I certainly don't like being in the sea. So to actually go into the sea to do a baptism is one thing. That side of it was a privilege to be with you to do that, but to actually get in there, and then it literally to be a storm, which it was, because I mean we were waterproofed up because it was absolutely chucking it down, wasn't it? Yeah. We could barely stand up, and then of course, as I remember, when you went down, we had this almighty wave that actually covered us all, and we nearly drowned, all of us. Extra baptisms. Yeah, it was. We've had some amazing times together, I have to say. Yeah, and you have an amazing testimony, and I just want to thank you for being willing to share this. And I just hope that something that you've said today will encourage somebody else. And actually, somebody sent me, these trite things you get sent on Facebook all the time. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, I don't actually pay any attention to them. But somebody sent me this. One day you will tell your story of how you've overcome what you're going through now, and it will become part of someone else's survival guide. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that my testimony is amazing, or there's no tap dancing angels, because that was something I always wanted to look out for. You did. I thought, you turn to God and neon lights appear in the sky and the angels come down, and it's not like that. Maybe it is for some people. It hasn't been like that for me. It's been a gradual thing. But if me talking about it can help somebody else even take the first step on the journey, then that's all it takes. That's right. Wasn't there, when you went to France, didn't you have a sequence of a Bible verse? Jeremiah followed me around. Yes, well, perhaps you could just do that quickly before we finish. I mean, it was soon after. Was it soon after we'd spoken and I'd made promises to God? Yes. And I was taking the children abroad for the first time, and it was terrifying. I mean, I think my youngest was only 3, 4, something like that. And Ali, I think, had given me this verse, hadn't she? Yes. Before we left. You remember the verse for me, because I will get it wrong, because I'm not an expert. I can't remember. What was it? Which one was it? Was it the old standard Jeremiah, the one we all love? Yeah. I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Yes, that one. Plans. Yeah, not to prosper. That one. Yes. Anyway, one. So Ali had spoken to me about that. And we got off the plane in France, and there was a billboard with Jeremiah written on it. And to date, I have no idea. And just during that week that we were away, it kept popping up. I've got it all written down somewhere in my little book that Sam gave us. But yeah, Jeremiah, the whole verse just kept in various places, in various different forms. And I'm like, oh, this is such a coincidence. It's just getting on my nerves now. And I went back and I told you guys in the house group, and you're like, no, it's a God incident. I'm like, no, I'm not buying that. Maybe it was. And do you now agree with us that these things are God incidences rather than coincidences? Quite probably. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Jane. Thank you so much for sharing your testimony. And as you have already said, I just hope it blesses somebody else and it will become part of their story. A mustard seed. That's all you need. Absolutely. Thank you, and God bless you. Take care. And you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Well, I'm sure there's lots for you to think about from that interview. I was listening to that and not heard or seen that before. And I particularly liked the line, my God doesn't make me guilty. And I think that was there's a really powerful message in that, especially with lots of us trying to juggle various things all at the same time at the moment, homeschooling and life and work and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it was great to hear so much about Jane's journey. Maybe she'll see Tap Dancing Angels at some point, or maybe you've seen those and you'd like to share with us something about that. That would be great. Yeah, so in the next couple of weeks, we've got Jordan is going to be interviewing somebody, a special guest next week. Yeah, there's going to be some really interesting people coming up over the next few weeks. So yeah, and thank you very much for your messages. They've been popping up as well. Yeah, so we'll be back with church on Sunday morning at 11 here on the YouTube channel. Yeah, and as you saw with Jane, heard with Jane, it takes sometimes a lot of people to be involved in a journey of faith, and each one of us, maybe we play a little part in somebody else's journey, and we may or may not know about that. So yeah, so I think it's just for me to say good night. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been a blessing to you, and we'll look forward to sharing with you some more. Yeah, take care. God bless.